So we'll be having a discussion around what is that toolbox approach, what's in the toolbox, is it a one-size-fits-all strategy, or are there various different things that go into the toolbox that enable us to provide really high quality support for dyslexic learners and for learners with unmet literacy needs perhaps, and young people who perhaps haven't yet had their needs identified and they're just on the journey to being identified with a learning difference. So we're going to ask the following questions. And that is, what are the strategies, skills and conditions that can have the most significant impact on literacy and learning gains? And I know that will interest everyone in the audience, because as educators and parents, that is what we want to know. Very important to us. So let me introduce myself, and then I'll introduce my guests. I won't talk too much longer, I promise. So I'm Julia Claudia, Head of Education at Scanning Pens. And I first went to Malta the very first time in February of last year, where I met Jason and Claudia. I believe it was at a Catholic school, or the Catholic Institute in Valletta, where I gave a presentation, and Jason also gave a presentation, so we know each other. And that's lovely, and we've been able to follow the research over time. So this is a culmination of a long period of research and thinking around this topic, which is why we're all so excited to be presenting to you this evening. So let's bring Jason into focus. He's a dyslexia specialist, of course, and has been working in the field of dyslexia, I know, for more than 30 years. Also a well-respected author, and I would love it if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself, please, Jason.
Yes, sure. As you said, I've been working for nearly 30 years in this field. And in 2010, I've set up, a unit at the Secretariat for Catholic Education, which mainly caters for dyslexic students. I mean, most of the time is dedicated to assessments, So, but and since we are two persons at the secretariat, me and Claudia, and catering for 40 schools, the intervention couldn't be done. But instead, we train, teachers, assistants. In the local context, we call them LSCs, Learning Support Educators, and so that they could help dyslexic students in class. We also provide professional development to teachers, and the topics range from, strategies, learning strategies, to assistive technology. I also have a book as well, which is called the Auditory Processing Skills, which I published way back in 2010. It's a resource book specifically for teachers and learning support educators to address, memory problems, especially when it comes to auditory memory and phonological skills. And from the information I have, there is a agency which uses a literacy agency which uses my resource book when it trains to train, students and LSCs to use the resource book when it comes to literacy intervention. Something else which I published, I co-authored, because it was 2014, with the study in early literacy, literacy in early grades, which, if I remember well, we presented it to the then Minister, Evaris Bartolo, and that was a published, research work which gave a picture of the literacy in the church schools. Something else which I did in the past, I ran a learning center which catered for students with learning difficulties. Spent around 6.5 years, and I was, the managing director, kind of this center. Um, I think that's all what I can say about myself. Mhm.
It's a tremendous portfolio of experience to bring into the picture
Yes.
for us this evening. Thank you, Jason. Please
Welcome.
mute your microphone, and I will ask Claudia to introduce herself a little bit more as well. So she is also a specialist teacher and assessor who holds a Master of Access to Education in SpLD, extremely well qualified lady. And I'd love to know a little bit more about your work, and as a peripatetic teacher in Malta, what the picture is at the moment in Malta, so that we have an idea of what's going on in schools in the challenging times that we're in.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam. We, as Jason has already explained, the Dyslexia Support Services, we offer support to 40 church schools. We, most of the time is spent on assessing students for exam access arrangements. We also dyslexia screen students from the age of 7. And we also support learning support educators to teach one-to-one or group sessions for students based on the specific learning difficulties. Of course, we give training to schools to adopt dyslexia-friendly measures. As you already mentioned, well, around Malta, what can I say? Dyslexia, we can see that every year the students increase. We would like to do a lot more, Jason and I, but I mean, one-to-one interventions in 40 schools are quite impossible. But we help teachers and learning support educators to help these students, teach them the strategies that would help them improve in their studies. I also do one-to-one sessions with students after my work, after my privately, and that's the thing I like most, working with kids. And I mean, I've been a classroom teacher for 23 years, and I miss it. So the one-to-one sessions make up for that loss.
Yes, we're dedicated and we want to be with our students, that's for sure. Claudia, I'm just noticing that your microphone is phasing in and out, so I'm just going to give you a moment to check there's nothing covering your microphone, or ask you to maybe speak a little louder as we go forward, if that's okay.
No, I think I'm having a lot of problems with the internet today.
Okay, we'll get through, it'll be fine. Thank you very much for your introduction, and what I would love to do now is for us to have a discussion about this idea of a dyslexia toolbox, or a toolbox that supports literacy, because we know that good practice for dyslexia students is good practice for every student. Yes. And so let's just bring this question into view, and we'll chat for a few minutes, probably about 15 minutes or so, about the dyslexia toolbox, and then we'll move on and we will look into Jason's study. So we're going to be talking about a range of tools in this toolbox and good practice, and what that means, what it means to have a really great toolbox to support your teaching. So for anybody who perhaps doesn't have a toolbox in their classroom or doesn't know what that might look like, can you tell us what that looks like in the Maltese schools you've been working in, Claudia?
Well, the toolbox, it's the name, it's a box which is put in the classroom, and it's there available for the students to use it as as they like. I mean, it's not the teacher that asks them to use something from the toolbox. The teacher shows it to them, she explains what's in the toolbox, and the student, according to his or her needs, uses the tools from the box. And I'm going to mention some of the common things that people put in the toolbox, but I mean, you can always add up to that. So, pencil grips, writing finger spacers, alphabet strips, magnetic letters, sets of high-frequency words, reading rulers, colored overlays, page markers, sticky notes, highlighters, sand timers, multiplication tables, some fidgets as well, small whiteboards, salt trays as well, blank flashcards for this kids to use themselves. And we also suggest that we put some books to boost the students' self-esteem as well.
So this is a range of low-tech strategies that you've just described, Claudia. None of these are things that have a battery in them, and they're all very simple to use. Yes. And require little or no training from a teacher for a student to be able to choose. Yes. And use. And so how would a student apply to take something out of the toolbox? Do they have to have a conversation, or has there been training so that students know what is available?
Yes, usually the teacher explains everything, what's in the toolbox. Of course, the teacher knows who the students are, the ones who need these tools, but usually she explains to all the classroom, because sometimes certain things, they are not good only for those who are dyslexic. There are things who other children enjoy as well. And the last thing now we are adding to is the SpLD reader as well. When it's possible, we add it to the toolbox as well, because students like to use the SpLD reader. I mean, it's a gadget, it's technological, and children, you know, these days, technology is something they really enjoy. So, yes, we explain to them according to their individual needs, because not everyone needs a colored overlay. So we explain, and they can take anything freely from the box and then put it back.
So it's interesting that there are multiple things that can go into a toolbox of support. The low-tech supports you've described, the mid-tech supports that you've described. These are usually the ones that have a battery or require a little bit more training to use. So the SpLD ReaderPen is one of those items. I think anything that maybe an audio book, or the ability to listen, or listen and read a book at the same time. This is part of a strategy called simultaneous highlighting that I feel fits very well in this mid-tech part of our toolbox of strategies. And the wonderful thing about this reading and listening at the same time as a word is presented is part of what accelerates the learning progress, I feel. Do you have evidence that that's the same, that the children respond well and progress well with these strategies in the toolbox?
Yes, they do. As Jason will explain in his report, we did have a lot of exposure with it with students in the primary area, and it worked very well. We saw a lot of improvement in the students' understanding. And so Jason will explain much better.
So we'll look much more at the SpLD ReaderPen in a little bit. Yes. And I would just ask you about the other strategies, which are the high-tech strategies. These are usually the ones that are much more expensive.
Yes.
yeah, and require a great deal more training. So tools that may be part of an office suite that then have the accessibility built into them. Is that part of the toolbox, or is that something additional to in school?
At the moment, no, it's not part of the toolbox. But when the need arises, yes, the student is trained, because I mean, these things, as you know, cost a lot of money. So they're not that easily accessed. But fortunately, sometimes even the parents, they buy the assistive technology themselves, whatever is needed for the student concerned. But they do help a lot too, like text to speech, speech to text, immersive reader. These things help a lot our students. But then we work around the student according to his individual needs.
Sorry, Julia.
Please.
I think it's important to explain the concept behind the concept of the toolbox. Everyone knows that the idea of inclusive education is being given, prominence, given a priority in our schools in UK. We talk about inclusion. I mean, in every education sector. But when we talk about inclusion, we are incorporating the idea of diversity. So students learn in different ways.
Yes.
So if you provide learning styles, so if we recognize the different learning styles of students, so the toolbox should be the ideal, first aid box, I would say. It's a first aid box, all right, to, I mean, the idea of a first aid is used for an emergency. So in that case, these students, they need some emergency measures, to address their learning needs in class. So the toolbox is it's important. I mean, it's a big box. Usually it could be a cardboard, it could be a plastic box.
Yes.
It could be. I mean, the size, perhaps it would write 2 feet, 1.5 feet by 1 foot, and you can include all these items mentioned by Claudia. The more you include these tools in the box, obviously you have to make it bigger. But the important thing is that students know where to use which item they need to use to address their specific needs. Obviously, teachers should be exposed to this kind of toolbox. I think training is important to teachers, to educators, not just introduce the toolbox in class and say, oh, there's the toolbox, you can use it, and that's all. No. I mean, when you introduce something new in class, either a policy or something, tangible, teachers need to be trained. All right. I mean, I'm going to explain later on about, the use of assistive technology, which is sort of changing the idea, all right, how the education system should be remodeled based on, assistive technology. The COVID, for example, has taught us many things, So students couldn't go to school. So the only measure to teach students, you have to use technology. So the COVID, in a way, sort of is giving us a lesson, all right, how to use technology, how to transmit, how to instruct, train students through, technological means.
And it's that movement towards independence that we are all working so hard to achieve with our learners now. So prior to COVID in our classrooms, teachers everywhere, it's always about empowering those students to be able to independently choose the learning tools that they need to confidently access the work that's in front of them, or what they want to access that they might not have been able to before. And COVID has caused us to think a little bit more. Perhaps we were a little bit more reliant on one-to-one teaching assistant type support prior to COVID, and that was the main model that we used, that we would do that model of learning that was very intense and perhaps swapping and sharing, and actually that world has gone now. So we have to be thinking about how we create independent learning streams for our young people, not just at school but also at home. And so I think the most important work that the teachers are doing at the moment is really encouraging young people to independently take the tools that they've been exposed to, had that experience of, and confidently go ahead and use them and take them to their hearts and use them, because they know it's going to give them self-esteem, self-confidence to be that learner who can engage with whole class learning.
And that's the most important thing, self-esteem.
Yeah.
I believe that's the basic to start with these students. And as you go along, you may add other things to the toolbox, because sometimes you use something with a student and you say, this works wonders, I should put it in the toolbox. I mean, it's not strictly a list of things. You may put anything you like or that works for you as well. So
yes, in that toolbox, it might be that if you have a learner who is experiencing some anxiety, and this was a big part of my teaching career, working with young people who felt anxiety. Sometimes it's because there was a learning difference there that hadn't been identified, like dyslexia, and it caused students to go into that mode of a fight, flight, or freeze, or actually climb, some of my students as well. And a good strategy that we used was to provide a sensory box that contained different toys, a cuddly toy, something nice, comforting in there, that you could go to that quiet space and just self-regulate, because we know that learning won't happen if you're not emotionally available, if you are too anxious to do that learning. So maybe for some people, that toolbox might contain some kind of sensory takeaway to go and just spend that time self-soothing before you can enter back into the learning in the classroom. And this is an important lesson for all teachers. I think now we have some very anxious young people with good reason. They're having quite an experience in the world. And so we must pay attention to their emotional well-being and make sure that's supported, and understand that has to be supported before learning can take place.
Because dyslexia, I mean, it impacts many areas of day-to-day life with these students' life. So there isn't going to be one tool which will solve everything. You have to use a variety of tools to help the student improve in his studies and make it more accessible.
So let's think specifically about learning gains, and I'm going to ask you, Claudia, what in the areas of developing reading and comprehension skills, what would be your top tools that you would have in your hand if you were going to be working with a student who was lacking that self-confidence in their own learning ability?
Well, in reading and comprehension, which I have to say it is one of the main difficulty that they have. Well, reading, it has to be introduced to them as something that they should enjoy. But I use a variety of reading. I mean, online reading books are very good for them. They love them. Because I mean, for them, sometimes, some of my students, I see that when they don't have the hard copy, it's better. When they have a hard copy in their hand, they sort of are afraid. And they get stressed, they fidget. So when I put the same book online, they read it more, they're more relaxed. I don't know why, but some of them, yes. I mean, that works really well with them. Of course, I use different multisensory strategies to teach them how to decode. And when it comes to comprehension, I use a lot of games, because comprehension is, it's a bit, there's understanding is the main thing. So I make sure that sometimes I use visuals. Sometimes I need to tell the story myself, and then I make it accessible to them in different ways. Sometimes I have students who prefer to draw what they have understood than not writing sentences. So I use various tools, but as long as the student is comfortable, I ask them what makes them comfortable, and I work around their needs.
That it's that individualized support that's crucial.
Yes, very true. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of people working in this area, and I wish there were a lot more, because we have a lot of students, and it takes time to see them individually. But I mean, it's the best thing. The improvement is, you can see the improvement in a few weeks, because they become more confident, they're happy to do the lesson, they feel good because there's no one around hearing them reading or doing mistakes, and that works very well with them.
And Jason, this comes back to your point about teacher training and how important it is that we have this shape of training around learning needs happening. So in the UK, I think we've distilled it down to maybe 2 or 3 hours of SEN training for teachers as part of their standard training package, which is very worrying. As someone who spent all my career working with students with additional needs, and I know I still don't know enough, you're always learning how to support. In Malta, is there training programs that are giving teachers the opportunity to learn about assistive technology tools as part of their training?
Well, we did, Jason and I, we did work with schools to train the staff.
It depends.
But it depends on the school.
It depends on the school. For example, next month, February, there is a school in the secondary school actually, which requested our help, you know, because they were interested to use, you know, the CPEN. I mean, I do believe that the CPEN is very helpful in the secondary area, and indeed, I'm looking at the questions because there are some participants who put questions about, you know, the secondary. What's about the scenario in the secondary area, and I can understand that in the secondary it's a different scenario. Why? Because very often we always talk about the primary, which is fine, but these kids, they don't. I'm going to use the word inverted commas. They don't just heal up to the primary, and in the secondary everything is okay. No, the reality is dyslexia is inheritable. It's inherited. It's a something that you carry along with you throughout your life. So the problem has to be addressed also in the secondary area. So that's important to bear in mind that the CPEN, okay, in our research we did it in year 4, 5, and 6, but and we also did another research in the secondary, and we found that it was very helpful as well. So the CPEN should be used throughout, you know, this throughout the schooling years and even beyond.
Since it has been accepted from MathSec,
yes,
for their O levels, it makes all the difference. So the students are more independent now, because sometimes students, sorry, they used to refuse a human reader because they didn't want that their friends see them with a reader. But with the pen, I mean, it's totally different too. It's just a small gadget. It's like a pen actually. So it has helped a lot. I mean, I believe that it has made a real big difference in the secondary area. And we have worked with 8 students last year, which we could see. We trained them during the COVID, so we did the sessions online, but it still worked, and they are still using it after last year. So, I mean, it does make a difference.
I'm just looking at the comments. I can see, wow, the pen's allowed during MathSec. Would you like to talk? So I'm just going to show the pen just in case anyone doesn't know. Just grab one off of my shelf from behind me. It's got a lanyard here to make it easy for teachers to model the use, just as we're talking about the SpLD ReaderPen. So this is the pen that's been approved by MatSec for use. Oh, thank you, Jason. So in Malta, we're referring to this pen as the SpLD. I think that's how teachers and students may have be referring to this pen. In other countries, sometimes it's called the scanning pen's ReaderPen. So we'll just clarify that we're talking about the same tool here, the SpLD ReaderPen, which is a tool that will read text, and directly you can listen to the text. I know Jason will talk a little bit more about it at the moment. So tell me about MatSec, and for anyone in England or anywhere else, so they know what MatSec is.
So MatSec are the exams that students sit for at the end of their secondary school, and they have accepted the use of the ReaderPen. As from this year, they're going to use it. But something I have to say about it, because I'm reading the comments, the ReaderPen, you don't just go and buy it. I mean, it has to be, the student has to have a reader recommendation, and you have to ask the literacy specialist about it, if it's good for your son or daughter, because the ReaderPen is not good for everyone. I mean, it has, there are things that the specialist will guide you to it and train the student. It's very important. It's not something you just buy and they start using it. It's very important that they are trained. But I mean, students have become more independent with it, and that's why they like it. They don't need others to read for them. I mean, a 16-year-old doesn't really like it that someone reads to them. And it is allowed in English language, in MatSec. And the student chooses himself or herself that prefers the pen instead of a human reader. But from the students I'm seeing, I mean, they are all opting for a ReaderPen, because when they start using it and they get used to it, they prefer it. I mean, because they can read the text as much as they like. They don't have to ask anyone. So,
well, I think this is a wonderful introduction, and we should lead into Jason's study now. So thank you. Let's just bring our conversation about the toolbox to a close for now. I'm going to have a look at the questions, and we'll have some time and we can come back to those questions. There is a lot of audience participation, lots of really pertinent questions that we will come back to following Jason's presentation. So what I'm going to ask you to do now, Claudia, is to turn off your camera and your microphone, please. And Jason, I'm going to make sure that your presentation comes onto the screen, and we are going to move into the presentation now.
Okay, so it's important to explain about how the SpLD is being used. The tool. So it is a handheld text reader that reads and decodes words, sentences, and paragraphs. So this I'm trying to put it in front of the camera. So this is a portable device. I mean, it's not bulky, we can put it in your pocket, of a jacket, so we can carry it everywhere. And it reads words, it can read sentences, and even paragraphs. Regards languages, so far the SpLD has the English, French, and Spanish so far. This device, it has a stored memory, it has a memory which can save the text and can be transferred into the laptop. It is also equipped with a dictionary. So there is the Oxford dictionary, there is the Collins for the English language, and for the French there is the Cordial, all right, dictionary. There is, and for the Spanish there is the Larousse. Okay, there is these are the dictionaries which are incorporated in this device. So what you do, you just scan over the words. You go. I'm going to switch it on. I'm going to scan a word. Just to give you an example. So the word is portable, okay, and I go to the dictionary. All right, I'm going to. So this is there is the dictionary. I don't know if you can see it. I'm trying to put it in front of the camera as I can so that you can see. This is the Collins. All right, I'm going to scan the word. The word is being read. Okay, and here under the word there is the meaning. All right. There is also the voice recorder. It can you can use it as a microphone, and whenever you talk, it records everything, and and it can be played back. And regards settings, there are customized settings. So if you are left-handed, you can set it into for left-handed or for the right-handed persons. Okay, it can also do adjustments. You can also do adjustments regards the punctuation, all right, punctuation pause, okay, and the word pause. So the word pause means that rather than you select that the word being read at a slow pace or at a fast pace, and even for the punctuation, for example, the comma, there would be a pause between the comma and the next word. So this can be adjusted from this device, from the SpLD. The good thing of this device, like every device nowadays, is that does not there's no need to worry about to purchase batteries. It can be charged directly to the laptop, okay, using a USB cable. Right. Let's go to the next one. Next slide. So basically, it can read. All right. So it scans over the word and it's read aloud. You can also use the headphones. So there is a plug, a jack. You can put the headphones in here, okay, and you can use the earphones or headphones to hear the word being read. It decodes the word. It can transfer, as I told you, so you can transfer a sentence or a word or a paragraph into the laptop. This is very ideal even for the secondary area, and as I told you before, it can record your own voice as well. Next one. So the main features of the SpLD introduced to students. So it's a text reader. It has a dictionary, scan to file. All right. So you can scan. So in that case, you can scan paragraphs and have it stored in the SpLD. And when you go home, you can transfer the information to the laptop, or you can use it. All right. You can transfer the information from the SpLD using the USB device. So if you are at home, okay, you can plug in the cable into the laptop, and that as you scan, the scanned material is being shown on the Word document. There is the recorder, and there are settings. So as I told you, the settings are very flexible. All right, it has a left, right, the volume, the punctuation pause, the word pause. Okay, and there are other functions as well. Let's go to the next one. So what are the teaching gains about the SpLD? Take out and use, no setup, no Wi-Fi, charges via USB. So the advantage is that it is there is no need to worry about the Wi-Fi, because just scan, you go home, okay, and you transfer the information onto the laptop. It reads aloud or discreetly to headphones, reduces the distractions. So this is the advantage. So you can plug in the earphones and you can hear the words being read without any interruptions from the surrounding environment. Significantly reduces reliance on human support. That's the idea. Students with dyslexia, if they are being trained how to use the SpLD, okay, the idea is to become independent reader rather than relying on human reader. As you know, engaging a human reader, it's it costs money, because you have to pay for the human reader. Whereas the SpLD, it eliminates all these, this kind of problems. Promotes independent learning. It overcomes learning block at the point of difficulty. It increases reading fluency as well. Okay, so as Claudia mentioned, when students use the SpLD confidently, they will build up confidence and they will start reading fluently. Provides multimodal learning, listening and tracking the word simultaneously. So as you scan the word, okay, you can listen to the word being scanned. Is an untethered device, no additional tech required. Okay, so there is no need to add other devices. It can be read anywhere, so there is no need to put add-ons, okay, to device. So you could be in a library or the supermarket, wherever, and you can use this SpLD to scan words or instructions. Immediate use, no loading or distractions, and ease of rapidly becomes a normal way of working. All right. So as I told you before, if teachers and students are being trained how to use the SpLD, okay, and it becomes a way of life, it becomes normal, like like the smartphone or the mobile phone or other gadgets. Ease of classroom integration. Okay, so when students use the SpLD, it becomes an integral part of the curriculum. Connects to Chromebook, laptop to transfer paper-based text to a computer. As I told you, so the information can be transferred immediately into the computer using a Word document. All right, and you can edit, you can do whatever you like once it is stored in the Word document. This is especially for if you are doing or children are doing, or students, I would say, doing a project work, all right, related to subjects like, for example, geography or history, whatever. I mean, this can be, it's very helpful for these kind of subjects besides English. Next one. Right. So let's talk about the research. So briefly, I explained about the function of the SpLD, and around in 2019, it was at the end, nearly at the end of 2019, with the help of RoboCoach, and we initiated a study with actually we talked with James Green, and I showed the interest that what about I came up with the idea, what about if we do a study, of the SpLD in a local context. And James Green, I mean, he liked the idea and he told me, go ahead. So we promoted the SpLD, and there was one particular school, a primary school, that caters for guests from kinder to up to year 6. So this particular school showed interest to participate in this project. 15 students with a profile of dyslexia from grades 4 to 6 were selected. All right. I'm going to explain later on how this selection process has been done. The mean age of the cohort was 8.06 years. So We had 3 students in grade 4, 8 students in grade 5, and 4 students in grade 6. So most of the cohort were from the grade 5 students. So how the selection process was done, okay? Considering that we had 15, we are allowed 15, pens, we had to choose 15 students. So the selection process was done through administration of standardized tests. So we discussed with the there was a dyslexia specialist at school. We discussed with the dyslexia specialist, and we pinpointed those children who would participate in the project, and then we administered tests. Basically, I'm going to mention later on what the test consisted of. So the scores attained in reading and comprehension, all right, and word accuracy were chosen as part of the selection process. So the scores attained, so the reading comprehension and the word accuracy were two markers, all right, that helped us to choose the students for this project. Each case was discussed with the school INCO and dyslexia specialist working at school to enhance reliability of the selection process. In statistical terms, we use the word triangulation of the study. So rather than relying on the standardized test, okay, which is one part of this scenario, okay, we discussed the students, okay, with the school INCO or SENCO if you use it in the UK context, and dyslexia specialists working at school. Next one. The next one is, all right, the design of the study. So I'm going to explain in detail what the reading comprehension and the reading accuracy consisted of. Now, the students' attainment level in literacy before the onset of the study had been considered to establish their current levels in reading, fluency, and comprehension skills. So this was a pre-testing task, a pre-test, okay? So the study, actually, it was a repeated measure design. Okay, so we had the same sample. Okay, we used a pre-test and a post-test. I'm going to explain very soon. Their attainment levels on the same skills were also measured with the use of the ReaderPen to evaluate whether the ReaderPen had an impact on the students' reading comprehension performance. It was a post-test. It was a post-testing task. So initially, the students were tested just to establish their current levels in reading and comprehension, all right? Throughout these 8 weeks, because the project was spread over 8 weeks, they had the opportunity to use the SpLD in class and at home. So they got used of this device throughout these 8 weeks. And afterwards, we did a post-testing, all right? A post-testing using the SpLD, all right? Using the SpLD. And as I'm going to show later on, we saw a difference in their attainment level when it comes to comprehension and reading accuracy. True criterion reference standardized tests were used. So the test for reading comprehension, we used the Suffolk, which was locally standardized in Malta way back 2010, and the NARA needs analysis of reading ability, which basically measures reading accuracy, comprehension, and the speed of reading. So here they are. Students were tested in reading comprehension, word accuracy, comprehension, and rate of reading. And the scores were inputted. So the scores of these tests, all right, in the pre-testing task were inputted, and then we did the same thing. We administered the same test in the post-testing, but with the use of the SpLD. Next one is, oops, all right. slide. Oops, sorry. I have to go a bit further up. Right. Okay. Okay. So, in between, we set up 3 questionnaires. 3 questionnaires were devised together as much information about the students' knowledge and beliefs on technology and their familiarity to the CPEN throughout the project. So, the questionnaires actually, I had to look around the available questions, from other research papers, and sort of I tried to adapt to this study. And basically we came up with these 3 kinds of questionnaires. One of them is the students' use and belief inventory index on technology, something which I created. I created a set of questions to get to know about the students, how they use their assistive technology devices. And the second part of the questionnaire was about their belief on technology. So that the purpose was to later on to correlate, to compare the use of technology and their belief on technology, to see whether there is to come up with, to see if there is a correlation between these 2 scenarios. And on the 4th week of the project, we did a pre-test questionnaire on the CPEN. So on the 4th week, since the project started, I administered a pre-testing questionnaire to see whether these students are using the CPEN accordingly and which component of the CPEN they use most. And the same thing I did on the post questionnaire. I mean, at the end of the study, which means at the on the 8th week of the project. So, training sessions, something which I mentioned before. Training is important. 1 professional development sessions was provided to teachers around May 2019. I mean, the preparation happened, way back. All right, before school closed for summer in 2019. Training was delivered by the CPEN representative. Abby came along and she provided the training, and the teachers had the opportunity and also the learning support educators to have a hands-on experience of the CPEN. 1 training session was provided to parents together with their children at the start of the project. Once the students were selected, a consent form was given to parents to see if they accepted. All right, the parents and all of the parents accepted of the children chosen for the project, and they enthusiastically came along with their kids and participated in the training session. Ongoing training sessions were provided by 2 dyslexia specialists. They attended school on a regular basis to check that the students were using the device properly. So on a weekly basis, all right, we went to school to monitor that the students were using the CPEN in class, and sometimes we ask them how did they find the CPEN was, and to check also for technical problems as well. This happened on a weekly basis. Right. The next one is interpretation of results. So this is the most important thing. Mala, pre and post testing in reading, comprehension, and fluency. So basically, the results consisted of on reading comprehension and accuracy. This is one part of the results, and the questionnaires the results of the from the questionnaires, it's another part. So let's start with the pre and post testing in reading comprehension fluency. We found that there was a minor difference, okay, when we compared the reading comprehension of SAFO in pre-testing and post-testing. So the difference was a 3-month difference. But the difference was noted, all right, in the read aloud text. The read aloud text, personally I prefer, because you can hear the students read aloud each word, and you can identify it quite easily, all right, where the reading problems are, and you can mark them down, all right. Whereas the Suffolk, it's a silent reading comprehension, so you can't be 100% whether they read the word accurately or they used cues, you know, to get to the right answer. I mean, personally, the NRS is one of the best tools that you can assess for reading accuracy. So here we've got there's a difference of 13 months, which is quite good. I mean, which is 1 year and 1 month. The comprehension component also was also affected, which means that there was a difference of 10 months. So the CPEN actually helped students to improve in comprehension. On the other hand, the rate of reading, all right, this speed, there was a difference. So if we compare the rate of reading, and this is something which is, I mean, quite reasonable, because when you scan over a word, it takes some time. So the rate of reading, there was a decrease, all right, from 8.04 to 6.03 years. So the reading rate with the use of the CPEN is slowed down. So it slowed down to a level of 6.03 years. Bear in mind that the students was from year 4 to year 6. All right. So we need to consider the ages, and when data is being input statistically, we will have, you know, this kind of figures. But actually, yes, there was a decrease of 77.13 points. I mean, which is quite a lot. But bear in mind, the CPEN, all right, the advantage is that they have to learn to become independent readers. So let's go to the, there is the graphical presentation. Students independently achieve 30 months of reading accuracy progress over 8 weeks. Students independently achieve 10 months of reading comprehension progress over 8 weeks. And yes, so let's go to the questionnaire, which was the pre-testing questionnaire. 87% of the students claimed that the CPEN reader was user-friendly. Yes, we had a big turnout of students who found that the CPEN was very friendly. It was very helpful. 87% of the students said that it helped them in reading and comprehension, which is a good turnout. So this is about students' perception of assistive technology. So as I told you before, the first part of the questionnaire, all right, the pre-test questionnaire. Sorry, it's not the pre-test. It was the students' belief use and belief index questionnaire. Here we've got 50%, 53% of the cohort believe that laptops and tablets do not support them in their school projects and homeworks. So here we try to have a snapshot of students who sorry, because I'm having incoming mails and they're distracting me a bit. So we had 53% of the cohort, nearly more than half, they believe that laptops and tablets do not support them in their school projects and homework. So this is quite interesting, because it casts a picture that schools, all right, do not promote, the use of laptops or tablets, in mainstream curriculum. So that's something very interesting. 60% of the cohort believe that technological devices help them in literacy skills. So that's the belief part. So these students believe that yes, technological devices help them in literacy skills. 40% of the cohort do not believe that laptop make such impact on school grades. This is an idea, because indeed, this is something which I'm going to talk about later on when it comes to recommendations. That students do have a perception that assistive technology, laptop or tablet, is being used for gaming, and that's all. It can't be, used for other things like for study or to improve school grades. Next slide. Right, correlating students' use of assistive technology devices with beliefs of assistive technology as a learning tool. So this part is important, because the use and belief, if you use something, let's start from this concept. If you use something, you use it because you believe in that something. So that's important. I had to correlate these two factors, these two variables, kind of. We had an equal distribution among students who are users of tablet, or laptop, and who believe that electronic equipment help them in school-related activities, and those students who are also users of tablet but do not believe that such equipment help them at school. So here we've got that we have students who are users of tablet and or laptop, and they believe, yes, that such equipment will help them. On the other hand, we've got another group, which is the same amount of the other group who believe, all right, but in that case do not believe that such equipment help them at school. So we have believers and non-believers on an equal level, and both groups are users of the same technological devices. Nearly 50% of the students who use tablet or laptop believe that this electronic equipment helps them in spelling, reading, and comprehension. Yes, the students, 50% of the students, they believe, all right, that such equipment, electronic devices help them in spelling, reading, and comprehension. Bear in mind that we have 50%. The other 50% would be skeptical, all right? They would sort of, weren't sure about it. But the fact that we have half the cohort who believe that the assistive or technological devices help them in spelling, reading, and comprehension, I mean, it gives us a picture of this particular cohort. More than half of the participants, accounting to 53% of the cohort who use the tablet, laptop, do not believe that electronic devices help them improve school grades. Again, the belief that such devices would not help them improve school grades, this is a food for thought, okay? Because if the environment or the school system does not, it puts emphasis on traditional way of teaching or of assessing, all right, without giving prominence to technological devices. I mean, the students, they are being sort of having an image that the laptop or the tablet, as I told you before, is being, used solely for gaming or for entertainment or for watching, YouTube or you know, cartoons, whatever. Right. Next one. Students who are able to operate the laptop or tablet independently and those who are not so confident in operating such devices believe that laptop or tablet help them in their homeworks and projects. So they believe, there is the strong belief that students who are confident in using the tablet, okay, and those who are not, they believe that the laptop or tablet. So the students know for sure that these devices are very helpful, all right, for homework and projects, whether you are using it on a regular basis or whether you don't use it on a regular basis. So there is that strong belief that the assistive technology, it's an aid, it's a useful tool to help them in homeworks and projects. 47% of the cohort who are confident in operating the laptop tablet believe that the electronic device addresses their learning needs. Nearly half of the sample, all right? I mean, if there were 15, let's say 7 out of 15, who are confident, who are, you know, who uses the laptop, tablet, you know, on a regular basis. Yes, they believe, okay, that such devices addresses their learning needs. Students who are not confident in operating laptop, tablet independently do not believe that the electronic device help them improve their school grades. Or just I have to move a bit. Yes. So there is also the idea that those who are not confident, those who are not, you know, skeptical about you know, the use of technological devices in school context, yes, they do not believe that electronic device help them improve their school grades. Next slide, which is, let me check. All right, I think I have skipped something. All right. One. Question from the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so this is part of the pre-testing question of the CPEN. So I asked students about the CPEN. During the 4 weeks of the project, most of the participants found the ReaderPen a helpful device. This accounts to 73% of the cohort. So they found the CPEN very helpful. The component in the device which participants used most was the reader, accounting to 80%. So most of the participants use the reader component only, compared to 6.7, I think it's 1, who use the dictionary only, and 6.7% who use the dictionary and the reader. So most of the students use exclusively the reader part. Next one, results of the post-testing questionnaire of the ReaderPen. So this is the post-testing questionnaire. Again, questions were modified from the pre-testing part of the questionnaire, and we found that 87% of the students claimed that the CPEN was user-friendly and helped them in reading and comprehension. Okay, so we tried to see whether there was consistency, all right, from the students' parts regarding the use of the CPEN, whether the CPEN was helpful for them throughout the project. 67% of the students used the reader component of the device. This was the same question which which was put forward in the pre-testing part of the questionnaire. 80% of the students had made use of the CPEN in class. So we see that there is consistency in the results. 60% of the students used the CPEN without assistance, where only 40% were assisted by an LSE. So if we take the 60%, we could say that most of the participants, all right, they use the CPEN without assistance. And very often I would say that those who use who were able to use the laptop or tablet independently, they use the CPEN without any assistance. The reason is because they are, they are tech oriented, right? So this is 86%, I would say 87% of the students did use the CPEN at home. So the post testing, I asked questions about the CPEN, the use of the CPEN in class, and the use of the CPEN at home. And here we've got a good result, right? A high percentage of students, okay, most of the students, I would say 87%, who use the CPEN at home. There was slight difference between students who use the CPEN independently at home and those who use the device with the help of adults. So if we compare the students who use the CPEN at home and independently, there was a slight difference between them. Next one, results of post. This is an edit question, which was an open-ended question. The survey has shown two aspects from students who found the ReaderPen easy to operate. So the question was, did you find the CPEN easy to operate? If they answered yes, they have to give a reason why. All right, and here I've gathered two kinds of information. So, and the information I gathered, I classified it into two parts: the operating device and the content functions. And I categorized the responses according to these kind of categories. The operating device enters the physical features on the CPEN to make it user-friendly. The following comments from the students were, right, so this is the operating part, okay, which means the physical, the physical part, okay, something that you can see, you can touch, all right. So what was their response? The device scans words quickly. Words are read after scanning. The device is operated with a press of a button. So these were the students' response. The device does not have many buttons. Okay, scanned words are highlighted. The other part, which is the content, the software, I would say, which is inside the CPEN, the content device, entirely the operating system integrated in the device to assist better the learning task. So what was their response? The following comments from the students were, the device explains everything. The device helped me to understand better and learn more. Some students who struggled or found the ReaderPen not that easy to operate said, so there were students who struggled or found the CPEN not that easy, but it's important to include it here in this presentation and put forward their comments. It takes some time to use it properly. Okay, scanned words were not exactly like the words on print, and scanning long words was not always achieved because some parts were left out. If the students were assisted properly, or if they had enough time to use the CPEN accordingly, I'm sure this kind of difficulties would be overcome. Bear in mind that although parents participated in this project, one needs to consider the home environment as well. So, although most of the students, use the CPEN at home, one needs to be careful how to interpret such results, because if the student didn't use the CPEN himself or herself, but someone scanned for him, it doesn't mean that he can use the SpLD independently. But obviously, we as educators, we don't have, access to study this study at home. So what we can observe is from the school, which is something that we can get immediate results, and from the response given from the students, what they do at home when they ask a set of questions. So let's go to the recommendations. So what the study has shown us, all right. So I'm listed some recommendations. There are quite a few. Integrating assistive technology in school curriculum requires commitment, effort, and collaboration among educators, school administrators, and parents. This is something which I do believe. Before I mentioned the idea, the philosophy of inclusion, of inclusive education, diversity, empowerment, all these concepts, all right. The underlying factor is that there should be collaboration among educators, school administrators, and parents. If they need to do change practice, okay, they should acknowledge new pedagogies. Okay, so in that case, assistive technology, which is a tool that could be integrated in the school pedagogy, I think that's something which they need. All stakeholders need to work towards that. Number one, training should not be limited to providing information how the SpLD works, but educators, namely teachers and the 6 learning support educators, should be allowed with the opportunity of having hands-on experience of the device and coached by competent professionals who are familiar with the ReaderPen or SpLD. This is what makes effective instruction. Unfortunately, teacher education, I'm going to use the one-shot training, all right? Professional development, unfortunately, occurs when teachers participate in a training session. They're given a one-shot session or a very short session, and it's often on an information level, unfortunately, unless if they don't have the hands-on experience. All right, I think teachers would not internalize the new methods. All right, for example, the SpLD, and use it and to use it in class context. If training stops at information level, it's not going to work. I mean, it's not. I'm not referring to assistive technology. It could be, other practices, which policymakers aim, to educators to implement in a classroom environment. The next one, training to students with special education needs should not be limited to information level, but have to be monitored and coached by teachers and LSCs to ensure that the device is being used in class until it becomes part of their learning style. So the training, it has to be ongoing until it becomes internalized. Learning becomes learning, it's learned when it is internalized. If students are given, a limited time how to use the SpLD, and then, leave them on their own without supervising them or seeing them, after some weeks later, all right? I mean, you are beating the concept of assistive technology in mainstream curriculum. Training to parents is requisite to enhance good practices which their children are doing at school. So it is important that parents and educators should work hand in hand. It's useless to train students to use it in school, and when they go home, they don't use it. Okay, I mean, these are two contrasting, I would say, contradictory scenarios. So it's important that parents should be trained, should be exposed about the advantages of the CPEN. And the last one is reconceptualizing the method of assessments entails widening of access arrangement tools made available to students with SCN with the aim to maximize their potential. It's important. The CPEN has reconceptualized the idea of assessment. As Claudia has told us before, the METSEC, the examining body, has recognized the use of the CPEN. So, so here we've got a widening of opportunities, a widening of access arrangements actually, all right? So rather than limiting the access arrangements for the students, okay, we are widening the access arrangements for these to the students, so they have an added tool to use it during the exams so that they could show their ability, their potential. All right, I think this is the last slide, Julia.
And thank you so much, Jason. I was just thinking about my trip to Malta and being invited to talk to the educational professionals at MATSEC, and they have an understanding that once this technology is being used at primary level, those students who are identified need supports will then take that through into secondary, and the students then working through at secondary who rely on those supports to be able to work confidently and independently may then need the same supports when they go through into university, and that opportunity needs to be there for them. So I think that there's a progressive view in Malta and a really good understanding of how if we start at a primary level and we start to embed within teaching practice and understanding with the teachers, students will then feel confident as they move up through the years, through secondary and beyond, and then hopefully to be able to use the tools like the CPEN, ReaderPen when they go into the workplace, if they need that to support what they do when they join the workforce. And that's the longer story to this, and I think this study is the gateway, part of the gateway to that, Jason. So we really appreciate how much you have done, the importance of the study, the participation of the students and the teachers in the study. Let's just go through some questions fairly quickly, because I realize everyone, we probably have got maybe 5-10 minutes left just to talk things through. I just wanted to pull out some key questions. So I'm going to make us bigger with the navy view. That's better. Thank you.
Yes.
And I was really interested to hear you talking about student independence and how after an amount of training, they were able to use the pen. Some students needed more training than others, but actually you said that 60% were able to get on and use the pen without a great deal of tuition. You're right about this technological age of students. They seem to pick things up very quickly and feel quite confident with the technology. Mm-hmm. So what was the feedback from the students who had that confidence, and what about the feedback from those who needed more assistance?
Yes, the study has shown that most of the students use the device without any difficulty, so at home and in class. So one is to consider the students who are exposed to the world of technology at an early age is a bonus to them to operate such a device quite easily. So that's important. Considering, let us compare myself, perhaps you. We were born in a different era where the computer has just started, and nowadays students are being surrounded, and garbed, by technological devices. I mean, they knowing that such devices will help them for sure. I mean, they become confident if they are being guided, shown how these assistive devices help them to address their particular needs.
It's the teacher modelling that I think is absolutely
Yes.
key to it all. And I was showing you my lanyard earlier as a teacher being able to model in front of the class all of the time, primary,
Yes.
secondary, it just becomes part of that accepted technology support. And I think that's very important to supporting our young people with learning challenges. We just normalise it so that when a teacher goes into the classroom, they might say, put on your glasses. Take out the tools you need, get the things from the toolbox that you want, use your ReaderPen. And that's part of the dialogue as teachers that we are having. It's always about accessibility and enabling that learning to happen. So thinking about the study, did the teaching practice change, do you think, for the learners with weak literacy skills?
I mean, teaching practice, actually, I would say it is the teaching practice actually didn't change as such, but teachers sort of acknowledged, and recognized the use of the CPEN. So the fact that teachers knew who were the students who had the CPEN and just sort of encouraged them to use the CPEN in class. I mean, it's a change of attitude actually, rather than changing, teaching practice. So basically, the study is what it was more about, how students use the CPEN in class and at home. I think that it would be very interesting if there might be a future study to see the teacher's perception of assistive technology in class during, with students who are using the assistive technology, and compare, different perceptions, the student's perception and the teacher's perception of assistive technology. I think it should be very interesting. That might be a future study.
That's one to write in. We'll take that. That will be interesting.
But not now. Definitely not now.
And so the study has had quite an impact in Malta. Could you tell me about what that impact has been, and if there have been any changes as a result of the study?
Yes, I think it did have impact in Malta. For example, after we finished the study, the SpLD unit, okay, from the government side, showed interest to do kind of a similar study like ours, all right? And they started and they are still ongoing. Unfortunately, considering that the study, we were fortunate enough that the study has been done before the COVID. But the COVID again didn't prevent, educators to do this kind of studies, because as I'm going to explain the next webinar, we did another study, all right, during the COVID lockdown, but it's a different team, so I think the SpLD unit, yes, they are still doing, they are still on the project, okay, and whenever we go to schools, sort of we promote our research, and many educators are interested, to get to know about the CPEN. And I think, yes, the awareness about the CPEN use in mainstream curriculum, yes, I think that there is that kind of vibe. It's just, it's just the beginning, but I'm very confident that, if you pass the word and you see, see the results, I think it is a ripple effect,
I'm very excited that students have been able to take the CPEN home actually during COVID and have had the opportunity to have the reading support that they may have received from a teaching assistant or a learning support teacher. But my worry when COVID happened was this model that we had of supporting students with their literacy was going to break. But I think the CPEN has been very important through the COVID experience for those parents as well, supporting children at home, because we know very often parents of dyslexic students or students with dyslexia may also be dyslexic. So making that tool available at home, I think, will have had an impact too. I would love to know some study details behind that and get some feedback at some point in the future. I wonder if that might be possible. Let's talk about the next webinar that we've coming up. I feel we should draw things to a close, and I want to thank everybody for participating in the chat. There's been so much interesting conversation. It's been enabled, I think, by Abby and Claudia, who've been answering questions along the way, which has been very helpful. Thank you very much, ladies. Really appreciate that. In the UK Scanning Pens, I'm available. If anyone wants to talk to me as well, I'm more than happy to share information about the study. And we've had some questions, Jason, about sharing the slides. You'll need to let us know if the people who request might be able to share slides with them. Let's talk about, oh, is that a yes?
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. So we have a synopsis of the study that we can send out with this webinar as well, and if anyone would like to approach us for that, we can share that study too. So in the next webinar, it will be on Tuesday the 4th of February, 1800 Malta, let's get this right, Julia, 1700 UK, and what we will do is we'll be talking about integrating assistive technology to create readers for life, which is the second part of the study that Jason has told us about. And Jason and Claudia will present their second piece of research project, which was conducted in 2020, again exploring CPEN ReaderPens, but this time with the older students, with the adolescent students.
Yes.
Would you like to just briefly outline what we will talk about next time, and we'll invite everybody to come back and hear
just
some more.
something very brief. Yes, we use the CPEN again, but we try to study the relationship between the self-concept of reading and the CPEN. You know, and I'm going to stop here. I'm not going to.
So much we can say about emotional well-being.
Expose more, okay? I just leave it like that.
We'll make the teaser, and we'll invite you all to come back next time. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening and spending time with us. You've been very welcome. Thank you very much, Jason. Thank you, Claudia, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abby, for facilitating too. God bless everybody. Have a lovely evening, and thank you very much.